The word disaster always reminds us of some devastating events that are unpleasant and disturbing the normal functioning of all beings. It is defined as catastrophic situation in which the normal pattern of life or ecosystem has been disrupted and extraordinary emergency interventions are required to save and preserve lives and or the environment. It causes death, damage of property, loss of health, emotional trauma, amputation, loss of savings and damage to the community settings. Disasters leave long lasting impacts on the biological, social and emotional life of people. There are disaster management teams or authorities formed by the government and other organizations to prevent and mitigate the disasters and also to ensure restoration and rehabilitation of the victims. There are many professionals involved in this scientific management of the disasters, and a detailed understanding and analysis of these disasters and their forms are inevitable for the professionals to work in the disaster management teams. There is a different classification of disasters, and the general classification is considered under natural disasters and man-made disasters. The other classification of disasters is slow onset disasters. Examples: drought, pollution, rising sea level and epidemics. And the sudden or rapid onset disasters, examples: flood, earthquake, tsunami, etc. Based on the level and magnitude of the disasters, they can be classified as simple disasters and complex disasters. This lesson explains the disasters as simple and complex disasters, and some of the examples in both categories are also discussed. Our objectives of this lesson are: on completion of this lesson, you would know about 1. Simple and complex disaster, 2. Some examples of simple and complex disaster, general classification of disasters. There is a different classification of disasters. In general, they are classified as natural and man-made or human-made disasters. In this lesson, the disasters are generally viewed or classified as simple and complex. National Disaster Management Authority of India classifies the disasters into 3 levels. Those disasters that can be handled by the resources and capabilities at district level are at the level 1 category, and those can be managed by state level is in the level 2. The level 3 category is the disasters that require resources and agencies at large levels, and they go beyond the limit of district and state level capabilities. The classification of disasters into 3 levels is based on the magnitude of disasters that challenge resource capability of the disaster management authorities formed at various levels of the government system. The following flow chart explains the types of disasters. So, we can see that disasters are basically of 2 types, which is natural disasters and man-made disasters. Under the natural disasters, we have the simple disasters and complex disasters, and even under the man-made disasters, we have the simple and complex disasters. According to Shah devastation, the natural and man-made disasters can be further classified into simple and or minor and complex and or major disasters. The devastation in this context can be attributed to the total amount of destruction a disaster can do to the people's life and property. It also takes into account the amount of cost to restore the life to normalcy. According to the report of Ministry of Home Affairs 2011, magnitude, complexity, frequency and economic impact are crucial in defining and classifying a disaster. The minor and major disasters therefore are different in their magnitude, complexity, frequency of occurrence and impact created. Common features of disasters. Disasters affects normal day-to-day life. According to Shah, all forms of disasters have the effect of disturbing the normal life of people and their surroundings. Disasters negatively impact the resources. Disasters negatively affect the resources, including the emergency systems. It challenges normal needs. Disasters create immediate scarcity of basic goods and services like food, shelter, healthcare needs, psychological support, etc. It may also vary based on the type of disaster and its intensity. The demand certain goods and services increase during emergencies and disasters. Certain goods and services like medical help and medicines increase to cope with and to manage the disasters. Disasters involves risks. All the disasters involve risks. Some causes for many casualties, death and some to heavy damage to habitat. According to Shah, the risk involved in the disasters depends on the nature of hazard or disastrous event, vulnerability of the people and resources, the value of the resources. Failure in mitigation increases the impact. The failure in mitigation activities increases the impact of the disaster on people and the resources. Human involvement in triggering the impact. The man-made factors trigger the adverse effect on people. For example, the corruption in badly building will increase the adverse effect during the collapse of buildings or during the disasters like earthquakes. People's way of life are altered or threatened. The normal way of life and cultural traits are threatened during the emergencies. Those factors also come to the limelight during the disasters. Disasters are multifaceted. The disasters are usually multifaceted because they are contributed by many factors and they impact on multiple aspects of human life. It challenges bio, psycho, social and financial aspects of human life. The impact of disasters vary. The impact of disasters may vary from property damage to heavy loss of life. It depends on the magnitude or levels of disasters, risk, vulnerability, mitigation, preparedness and resources and systems to manage the disasters. Simple and or minor disasters. All disasters have disastrous events and the destructive nature, but the classification of disasters into simple or minor is based on the magnitude of the problem. The classification may help in terms of preparedness, planning and rehabilitation process. In compare to the complex disasters, the minor or simple disasters have less intensity and destruction of people and property. Minor disasters are those incidents that create impacts on a limited number of people, limited area and to negligible amount of property loss. In other words, the minor disasters create adverse effects to people and property, but still are negligible in terms of effect and it can be managed with the regional level systems and authorities. But unattended minor disasters can lead to heavy loss and to complex disasters in the future. For example, repeated industrial crisis, oil spill, etc. can create heavy damages over a period. According to Duffield, there are disasters that are monocasual. The minor or simple disasters can be monocasual. That is, most of the time complex or a major emergency. According to Duffield, the term complex emergencies emerged in Africa in late 1980s, and the United Nations have given due consideration to define it as something that goes beyond the national boundaries. The National Disaster Management Plan 2016 defines the major disasters as that requiring resources and agencies at large levels, and they go beyond the limit of district and state level capabilities, whereas the United Nations looks at complex disasters as a situation threatening the lives and well-being of a very large number of people over a very large percentage of a population, and often requiring substantial multi-sectorial assistance. Characteristics of complex disasters: considerable civilian death, casualties, displacement and suffering. This is one of the aspects that show the magnitude of the disaster. The complex disasters cause for substantial death of people and casualties. This also leads to displacements, that is, people moving from their original inhabitation to new places. Multi-casual in nature. Risk and impact of complex disasters are multi-casual, and the confluence of causes make the disasters far-reaching and impacts on several lives. The high magnitude. The impacts of complex disasters are on several people. It affects large area or population and causes for heavy damages. The immediate and long lasting effects. The complex disasters produce immediate and long lasting impacts on people and property. The immediate effects are death, illness, disability, loss of infrastructure and loss of public service systems. The examples for long term impacts include lack of resources, poverty, emotional issues, financial crisis and marginalization. Risk and vulnerability. In complex disasters, the risk and vulnerability are very high. It usually causes for high amount of risk and vulnerability by the destruction of available resources and facilities for the people. Unpredictability. The unpredictability of most of the disasters create high amount of risk, and it creates chaos to the disaster management systems. In some situations, acts of nature leading to disaster losses may be unpredictable and unforeseeable and even counterintuitive. According to the United Nations, the complex emergencies like war and civil attacks can have the features of lack of authority and security, violation of human rights, and displacement and destruction of infrastructure and economic transactions. The need for external support. The complex disasters require assistance from external sources like international associations, other countries and etc. The following table shows some of the examples of minor and major disasters that fall under the category of natural and man-made disasters. Major natural disasters, minor natural disasters, tsunami, flood, cyclone, drought, earthquake, cloud waves, thunderstorm, heat waves, mudslides, storm. Major or complex man-made disasters, minor simple man-made disasters, setting of fire, epidemic, deforestation, chemical pollution, wars, road or train accident, riots, food poisoning, industrial disaster or crisis, environmental pollution. Disaster vulnerability in India. According to Dasgupta, the disasters occur when the hazards hit the vulnerable areas. Therefore, it is very much imperative to understand the vulnerability of disasters. The geoclimatic and socio-economic conditions of India make it vulnerable to natural and man-made disasters. 27 states including the Union territories are prone to disaster, and 58.6% of the land masses of India are vulnerable to earthquake. 12% of the land, that is around 40 million hectares in India, is exposed to flood and river erosion, and India has 7,516 kilometer long coastline and 5,700 kilometer is vulnerable to cyclones and tsunamis. 68% of the agriculture land experienced drought or vulnerable to drought. Complex natural disasters. The examples of complex or major natural disasters are cyclone, earthquake, tsunami, flood and drought. Some of the complex natural disasters are discussed here. For example, the cyclone. The term cyclone refers to all tropical storms. It is a worldwide phenomena and it has two major features, such as the atmospheric pressure is lowest at the center and winds spiral towards the low pressure. The magnitude of cyclone varies depending on the wind speed. According to Vaidyanathan, based on wind speed, the cyclones are classified into 4 types. They are ordinary cyclone with wind speed of 62 to 88 km per hour, severe cyclone 89 to 117 km per hour, very severe cyclone 118 to 220 km per hour, and super cyclones are around 221 km per hour and above. Internationally, the cyclones are classified into 5 categories. They are category 1 with a wind speed below 125 km per hour, category 2 125 to 169 km per hour, category 3 170 to 224 km per hour, category 4 225 to 279 km per hour, and category 5 is above 280 km per hour. Many parts of India is vulnerable to cyclone and it happens frequently in certain parts. The cyclone caused damages are also high in India. For example, in 1977, cyclone killed 10,000 people and about 2,30,000 cattle. Another super cyclone with a magnitude of 260 km per hour hit the 8 districts of Orissa in October 2000. It caused damages to life and property. It affected 10 million people in 8 districts of Orissa. The following map shows the cyclone prone areas in India. The general characteristics of cyclones. According to Dasgupta, the cyclone causes for heavy damages due to the wind and exceptional rainfall. The secondary flooding and landslide increases the risk damages to the affected area. Most of the cyclones can be tracked from their development, but towards the final hours there can be changes in the magnitude, wind speed and direction. Repeat, changes in the magnitude, wind speed and directions. The areas in the low lying coastal settlements are directly affected by the cyclone. Cyclones cause for physical damage, casualties and public health issues, scarcity of water supplies and damages to agriculture. The following figure shows how it moves from the sea to the shores. The image is from the recent Okchi cyclone that hit South India. Earthquakes. Earthquake is a natural complex disaster, refers to the sudden slips in the rock strata and thereby to the ground shaking. It is resulted by the slippage of crustal rock along a fault or area of strain and rebound to new alignment. Hypocenter or focus of the earthquake is the point within the earth where the earthquake rupture starts. The epicenter refers to the point on the earth surface vertically above the focus in the crust where a seismic rupture begins. General features of earthquakes. Earthquakes are caused by the surface faulting, by the waves and below the earth surface. Usually, earthquake is accompanied by some of the issues like repeated shakes, that is aftershocks, tsunami, tremors, vibrations, liquefaction, that is the soil loses its strength and causing to behave like a liquid, and landslides. Accurate prediction of earthquake is not possible even in this modern era, but the probability of the occurrence can be determined. Forecasting is done based on the seismic activity, previous incidents and observation of the climatic changes. Measurement of earthquake. Earthquake is measured in terms of their magnitude and intensity. The strength of an earthquake in the vibrational energy of the shock determines its magnitude. In 1935, Charles Richter defined local magnitude or called it Richter magnitude. The intensity of an earthquake is a measure of the observed effects of the earthquake on man, building and the earth's surface at a particular place. Gillespie Massali introduced an improved scale with 10 grades of intensity, and this is called the scale as popularly known. The scale is popularly used to measure the intensity of earthquake. Based on this measure of intensity, the earthquake prone areas are classified into 5 zones, wherein the zone 5 denotes to high earthquake prone area. The following map shows the seismic zones of India. India has been vulnerable to earthquakes. For example, the Gujarat earthquake, which is also known as Bhuj earthquake, caused for 13,805 deaths. In India, more than 50% of the area is considered prone to earthquakes. For instance, in a short span of about 50 years, 4 such earthquakes occurred. Assam earthquake of 1897 with a magnitude of 8.7, Kangra earthquake of 1905 with a magnitude of 8.6, Bihar Nepal earthquake of 1934 with a magnitude of 8.4, and the Assam Tibet earthquake of 1950 with a magnitude of 8.7. The aftermath of an earthquake in the Indian Ocean in 2004 was the massive tsunami of those damages more than 2,30,000 lives in the South Asia. Tsunami. The word tsunami is a Japanese word which means harbor wave. In reality, tsunami is not a mere harbor wave or tidal wave. Tsunami is defined as a wave train or a series of waves generated in a body of water and an impulsive disturbance that vertically displaces the water column. A tsunami is a series of waves generated by an impulsive disturbance in a body of water such as a lake or ocean. It typically takes a large earthquake greater than a magnitude of 7.0 to generate a damaging tsunami in the near field and a great earthquake of a magnitude greater than 8.0 to generate a tsunami in the far field. As it is already explained, a tsunami can occur due to different geological changes such as earthquakes, subaerial and submarine landslides, volcanic eruptions, and rarely due to meteorite impacts. Key features of tsunami. Usually, submarine earthquakes generate tsunamis, and therefore, it is also called seismic sea waves. These waves are 100 times larger than the wind driven waves. There are variations in the propagation characteristics and consequences on the shore of tsunami. Tsunami speed is reduced in shallow water as wave height increases rapidly. Tsunami waves are hardly noticeable in deep water and they may take greater than 200 meters. A large tsunami can flood more than 1.5 kilometer from the coast. The force of large tsunamis is enormous and sometimes the waves are amplified by certain shorelines. Tsunami may also start by the receding of the water, exposing the ocean floor and then producing wave crests with high speed. Epidemics. Epidemics, according to Shah, is man-made complex disaster. The word epidemics has derived from the Greek words epi and demos, which mean upon people. According to Singh and Swarnim, epidemic is the occurrence of more cases of a disease than would be expected in a community or a region during a given time period. Government of India Disaster Management Authority defines the epidemics as public health emergencies which disturb routine health services and are major ditch on the resources. Epidemics can be viral infection, diseases like meningitis, measles, dengue, polio, typhoid fever, bacterial infectious diseases like cholera, diarrhea, etc. Though the epidemics have a confluent factors and gradual build up of the situation, it gets people's attention with the outbreak. Certain vulnerable areas and populations usually get preparatory phase to prevent some of the epidemics by improving the conditions. Industrial hazard. Industrial hazards are man-made minor hazards that can become complex unless effectively managed. The industry hazards pressure on the environment in various ways. Many factors create hazards to the people and environment in industries. Chemicals. The industries that store and process the chemicals are posed to risks due to the presence of chemical and possibility of accidents even at small mistakes of machines and human beings. In India, the Bhopal gas tragedy, which claimed more than 5,200 lives, is one of the examples of a major industrial hazard. Mines. Mines create air as well as water pollution. The people who work in the mines and are residing near to the mines develop respiratory ailments. Gas cylinders. Gas leakage is one of the tragedies in working with gas cylinders. The hazards are related to employee health, that is eye and ear and lungs, unless proper machineries are used to prevent. There are many other industrial hazards like nuclear works, fireworks, asbestos industries, waste management, especially hazardous waste. Preventive aspects and proper training to people who operate those industries are key to protect from the disasters. Summary. The lesson discussed the simple and complex disasters very precisely with adequate examples. There are many disasters included in these categories and some of the major disasters have incorporated with details. The classification of disasters into simple or minor is based on the magnitude of the problem. The classification may help in terms of preparedness, planning and rehabilitation process. Complex disaster is something that goes beyond the national boundaries. It is defined as the major disasters that require resources and agencies at large levels, and they go beyond the limit of district and state level capabilities.